All right, welcome everybody to week 2. Hopefully by now everybody should be settled in. I try to give that 1 week transition time for folks to, work out any of the technical issues, make sure they have access to their e-textbooks and course assignments and stuff like that. So you guys, we should be ready to roll moving forward. So for week 2, your first task is to what you're doing now. Watch my week 2 welcome video. I can't say that I'll do this every week. I'm going to try to do this every week, but I don't like to make promises that I'm not confident that I can keep. So that being said, each week I'm going to try to sort of wrap everything together in a weekly welcome video, so you guys know how to best unpackage your weekly folder experience. So I've got my split screen open, so I'm just gonna go down the line, and then I want to talk a little bit about capitalism. So week 2, it's on you. And each week I'll come up with a kind of a little motivating, phrase. That's the life coach in me. So first, read chapter 2, then complete the chapter 2 prep, and all this is found in your week 2, it's on you folder. For the week 2 discussion, I put an actual quote up there. It's as a Word attachment. So you'll click on the link for the Word doc, and it should open up in Microsoft Word. It's a quote that has 10 precepts in it, 10 points. I want you to read that, and I want you to address each point as it relates to capitalism. So you've got a lengthy post that you're gonna reply to, and then you're gonna respond to at least 2 classmates' posts. Please make sure you respond to at least 2, because that's part of your grading criteria. Is that 1, you write a well-written, well thought out, meaningful, constructive, academically acceptable post, and then you respond to at least 2 of your classmates in a meaningful, constructive, productive way. Then I want you to complete the discussion. Private enterprise can do it better. There's nothing to discuss. Here's what I'm doing right now. In the beginning in your syllabus, you guys have as your final deliverable that's worth 40% of your grade, you've got a group paper where you're actually writing a business plan, 18 to 21 pages as a group. And actually what the concept is, I want you to propose a solution to a social problem using private enterprise. Because as a capitalist, I truly believe that private enterprise can really handle a lot of the social issues that government is expected to handle. Private enterprise can really handle it a lot better. Private enterprise has the innovation and the resources and the other resources to really address and propose real solutions that work to social issues. So what you're going to do is when you click on that thread, the folder or the discussion thread, private enterprise can do it better, you're going to see a list of social issues. I want you to simply reply to that by selecting your top 3 issues that you're looking to solve in order. The reason why I want you to choose is because I'm going to group you guys according to interest number 1, interest number 2, interest number 3. So everybody in the group will be working on the same interest that they selected. The reason for the 3 is because obviously if I've got, 10 students that want the same one, then I'm not going to be able to accommodate, but also I may need to break folks up into 2 groups with the same topic. But here's the point. I want this to be a meaningful excitement for you guys. I'm very big on, as I've talked about before, experiential learning, active learning. I want you guys to step into the experience of learning, so you really, the things that you're learning, you learn, did I say learn enough? In a meaningful way. And you're able to say what you learned by explaining what you do. When you explain to people what you do, you're in essence telling them what you learned. So to say to folks, yeah, I was part of a group that created an 18 to 21 page business plan proposing a solution on this particular social issue. Boom. That's pretty amazing. So again, pick your top 3 in order, 1, 2, 3. I'm going to try to give everybody their top, but that's not always realistic. So you'll get your top 3, and that's how I'll group you. And then, yeah, that's it. Read chapter 2, complete the chapter 2 prep, complete the week 2 discussion, and respond to the private enterprise can do it better. Work hard, be curious, be engaged, and have fun. And now I want to spend a little bit of time really talking about what private enterprise is, okay? Because I think there is a misconception on what private enterprise is, and private enterprise is also called capitalism. So when you hear the term capitalism or private enterprise, it's the same thing. It's a free market system that there's an open market for people to be able to engage in the activity of buying and selling products and services. And for those businesses who engage in that activity of selling goods or services, it's for the purpose of making a profit. I will tell you this, with private enterprise, it guarantees the following rights: the right to choose where you want to go, what business you want to choose for products and services, the right to compete, the right to own property, and the right to make a profit. And again, it gets a bad rap. But let me ask you a question. Have you ever been hired by a poor person? I know I haven't. You know, wealthy people get a bad rap, and it's something that I want to sort of push back on, okay? The job creators are the people who create jobs so people can work. And I'll say this, there's no such thing as a greedy capitalist. And some of you are like, Gargano, that's not true. I know a lot of greedy capitalists. Let me tell you something. I'm a capitalist. True capitalists are not greedy. True capitalists, I'm talking about true capitalists, want everyone to prosper. So there's no such thing as a greedy capitalist. It's an oxymoron. Like an oxymoron is a contradiction in terms. It's like jumbo shrimp or dry ice. You're either greedy or you're a capitalist. Now, there are a lot of greedy people who engage in capitalism that give capitalists a bad name, but true capitalism is about helping as many people as possible to increase their quality of life, not only monetarily, but in other ways. Because here's the way capitalism works, and I want you to think about this. In order for capitalism to be successful, it depends on the majority of people having a certain quality of life and making money. So by its very definition, capitalism relies on more people creating wealth and having a certain quality of life for it to continue. To say that capitalists don't want anybody to make money or get rich, that's counterintuitive. Capitalism would not survive, let alone thrive, if there were not people making money. And think about it. The more money you have in your pocket, the more money you're going to spend. And that's called consumption. Capitalism is based on consumption. The more people that are working, the more people that have money in their pocket, the more money they're spending on needs to and nice to, and that's the way it works. So for some of you who have maybe fed or have a skewed impression of capitalism, I just want to push back a little bit and just talk about capitalism in its truest form is the best system on earth. It's not perfect, but it's the best that we have. When we look at the economic systems, and you'll learn this down the road, the closed system is you've got communism, and then you move a little bit closer to socialism, and then you have mixed economy, and then you have capitalism. People are like Gargano, socialism is the best. No, it's not. And again, that's one of the misconceptions that I want to push back. And people say socialism is great. We hear a lot of talk about socialism. Socialism doesn't work. I want you to show me one country where socialism has worked over time. Socialism destroys economic systems. Just look at Venezuela. Just look at Denmark. Here's the way socialism works. I'm going to wrap this up in a couple of minutes, but this is going to help you because I want you to really think about the quote that I put up. I picked that quote on purpose and intentionally because I want you to really think about what capitalism is and the things that you're seeing and hearing. And I want you to sort of think of them in a way like, is this really helpful to capitalism, or does it just sound good to get on the bandwagon? Let me tell you what socialism is. It's a nice notion, okay? It's a nice notion that everybody is able to be taken care of and this and that. But let me tell you what socialism is. Socialism says this: regardless of how hard individuals work, or regardless how not hard individuals work, all of their input is put into a big box and then it's evenly distributed. So regardless of how hard people work, it all goes into one box and everybody gets the same. So what socialism does is it takes away incentive and reward, which is what capitalism is built upon: incentive and reward. Let me give you an example, a real live example, which I thought was brilliant. So probably about a while ago, 10 years ago or so, a business professor in Texas was teaching intro to business, and in most intro to business classes, you get to the point where you discuss economic systems, what I just talked about, communism, socialism, mixed economy, and private enterprise being the most open on this side. And inevitably, when you talk about the pros and cons of each, and the professor says, so which system do you think is the most effective? Most of the time, the majority of time, students will either say private enterprise or mixed. And I'm mixed on mixed. But anyway, well, this one class he had said socialism, and he was very surprised. And so he said socialism. So we kind of pushed back a little bit. And the overwhelming majority of students in the class, because of what they heard and what they read, the irresponsible things they heard and read, said socialism. So he thought about it for me. He said, all right, if you guys are so convinced of this, then why don't you put some skin in the game, meaning your grade, and we're going to run this class as a socialistic system. And they said, yeah, absolutely, socialism. So he said, okay. So here's what happened, right? So remember what socialism is. Regardless of everybody's individual input or effort, it all goes into the same box and it gets redistributed evenly, right? So what do you think he did when he gave the first exam? Well, socialism says you take the average of every student's score, because that's what socialism says. No matter how well or not well each student did on their exam, you put them all into the box and you redistribute and everybody gets the same output. So the average for the first exam was a B, because the students who take their studies seriously and busted their butts and worked hard to get an A were mixed in with those students who were, quite frankly, slackers and didn't take their studies seriously or whatever. So what happened is the students who are really A students and work really, really hard, when they got the B, they're like, B? I don't deserve this B. And the students that normally would get an F or a D were like, dude, this is totally cool. I got a B and I didn't even have to do anything. Dude, this is awesome. I love this stuff. This is awesome. Well, what do you think happened during the next exam? During the next exam, the average went down from a B to a C. Why? Because those students who normally are hardworking students who take pride in their studies, pride in their education, pride in getting an A, they were decentivized to study and work or put input as hard because they knew that it was all going to get put together, and the less productive individuals were going to weigh down the others. So the next average was a C, because those who studied really, really hard really lost the incentives to study, so they slipped. Those are like, dude, they were so happy they were going to do less than they already did. So the next average went down to a C, and then a D and an F. And this professor said it's the first time in the history of teaching that he failed an entire class. Actually, the class failed themselves. Well, to the dean's credit, students went and they complained and they tried to protest the grade. And to the dean's credit, the dean stood by the professor, as he should. It's a hard lesson to learn, but the students failed. They had to take the class over. But it's a hard lesson to learn in terms of socialism. Margaret Thatcher was very famous for saying socialism works as long as you have other people's money to spend. And what happens is people eventually, either in socialism, can no longer afford the taxes, so they stop working, or they become decentivized to work, or they move to another country. So all you have is people who are decentivized, and it doesn't work. The whole system collapses. There's a saying that says, teach a person to fish and you feed them for a day, but I'm sorry, let me rephrase. If you give a person a fish, you feed them for a day. If you teach a person how to fish, you feed them for a lifetime. And what happens with socialism says we're going to create a dependency on the government. And really what that is it's a form of economic slavery. When you make an individual or a group of individuals dependent on a system, so they have to go to that person or that system or that government for dependence, that's a form of economic slavery. And what I say is one of the cruelest things that we have done as a society and as a government is make people comfortable in their poverty. Rather than what true capitalists say is, we care too much about you to leave you and make you comfortable in your poverty. We want to provide opportunities for you to come out of your poverty. Because again, capitalism says we want to see more and more people prosperous, because the more people that are prosperous, the better quality of life is and the better that capitalism works. So when you keep handing people fish, people become dependent on it. When you teach people how to fish, they're independent and they're self-sustaining. What happens with the former is when you keep feeding people fish, people then all of a sudden feel entitled to that fish. And that's what happened in Venezuela, where you see the riots because socialism has destroyed so much and it's created this sense of entitlement that those who do not want to put into a system but they want to take are now feel that entitled to what they should have. And that's the difference. Where socialism is about taking from one to redistribute to another, capitalism is about giving. Here's what, I'm a capitalist, like I said before. I'm a very, very generous individual because I believe in the power of giving and to help with hand ups versus hand outs. Because hand ups say, I care too much about you to leave you in that situation. Capitalism are among the most generous people on earth. Don't go by what I say. Look at the facts and the figures. That's the other thing. It's so irresponsible that what's being fed as fact, that's really your people's irresponsible opinion. I want you guys to be fact-based and draw your own conclusions, even the things that I say. But do research on the evidence about the most generous people, the most generous philanthropists are your job creators, your business owners, your wealthy individuals are among the most generous individuals. So I say this to say, capitalists say we love to give. In fact, we give and give and give. The difference is we don't want to be told who to give to. And I think that's only fair. So capitalism is a wonderful system. Is it perfect? Absolutely not. But it certainly creates opportunities for everyone. And so that being said, I'm going to stop now. We're going on almost 20 minutes. But again, I want you guys to make sure that you take these assignments seriously. And again, I try to create create that classroom environment with that online. But anyway, we're going to continue as we go a little further. I want you guys to get comfortable, but I'm going to sort of, there's going to be a little bit more meat as we continue to grow. I want to ease you into it. I want to position you to be successful. That being said, I will see you all during the week. Have a good one.